How's it going, YouTube? It's Pilot Flame and I am back with another video, and today we are going to be looking at Dancer and what we can see from the new job in Final Fantasy XIV's next expansion, Shadowbringers. So Dancer alongside Gunbreaker is one of the new jobs going into the next expansion. So I'm going to start off with the easy stuff, basically the traits to kind of flourish things out, no pun intended there. For how the job is going to play out. So they just have a bunch of traits that just basically increase their damage, and they have a trait that increases their charges of an avant, which is basically their dash, which just dashes 10 yalms in a direction forward, basically, or whichever direction you happen to be facing. And then they have their fan gauge, which they get at level 30, which stacks up to 4 different fan feathers. And then their esprit gauge at level 76. I think I pronounced that right. I think English pronunciation would be esprit, which basically is your think of it like your Kenki for samurai, which you basically can spend on one move, which we'll get to later, which also accumulates with your dance partner as well as other buffs, which we'll get onto in a bit. So what can we see from Dancer that makes them a dancer? Well, they have 2 different types of dances, one called Standard Step and one called Technical Step. Once you activate either Standard Step or Technical Step, your actions, your 4 basic actions, your single target ones, turn into 4 dance moves. Emboîte, jette, entrechet, and pirouette. But I'm just going to call them red, green, blue, and yellow because I can't really pronounce French very well. But basically think of them as moodras. They're 1 second recast of GCD abilities. They also disable your GCDs at the time of use, and you can only use either the finisher, the technical finish, or the standard finish, any of these 4 dance moves, or your en avant, which is your dash. So what happens is when you activate your standard step or technical step, one of these buttons will light up. Also on your gauge you'll see a pattern, either a 2-color pattern or a 4-color pattern, which is random. And basically in order to get the standard step or standard finish and technical finish buffs at the end of it, and the damage is based on how many steps you get correct. You have a 15-second window to do so, and obviously you want to get them done in the first 2 or first 4, depending on how many steps you need to do. Because otherwise you'll be basically losing downtime on your GCD abilities. So what you will want to look at is basically which button lights up, or you could just see the pattern, and they basically function similarly to mudras. However, they do not punish you like mudras. So if you mess up, let's say you're doing technical step, which has a 4-part finisher, and let's say it's red, blue, green, yellow, and I do red, blue, and then I hit yellow by accident, it will basically just pretend like I didn't do that action, and I will still need to hit green on the next go around. And then, well, what do all these abilities do? Well, standard finish, if you get 0 steps, it's 500, 750 for 1 step, and 1000 potency for 2 steps in a 15 AoE radius, which has a certain fall off, which can be subject to change as well. Also, I forgot to mention that everything in this video is also subject to change as well, because this obviously is a new job, so this one could probably be the one that changes the most. So we'll need to keep that in mind as well. But getting back to the standard finish, it does up to 1000 potency if you get the 2 steps, and then it gives your dance partner, or closed position, which is the ability that allows you to pick a dance partner, a 5% damage increase on the 2-step finish, which lasts 60 seconds. So it basically gives you and your partner the AoE balance buff from before, basically, for the duration of 60 seconds. Technical finish, however, goes up to 1500 potency in an AoE with the same damage fall off, and then it gives the AoE balance for 4 steps for 15 seconds, which is 5% damage increase to all of your nearby party members as well. Also, when executing these step bonuses for standard and technical finish, it activates your esprit gauge, which allows you to gain access to the ability that we did not mention. Well, we mentioned it earlier, but we didn't mention the name, and that is Devilment, which basically is a 600 damage ability that does AoE as well, that costs 50 of your esprit gauge. On the job action trailer. The Esprit gauge is the little bar that's arced on the gauge itself, and then the like fiery petal looking things on the outside of the fan is your feather gauge, which you can stack up to 4, and the Esprit gauge can stack up to 100. And Devilment, like I said, costs 50 of that gauge. So basically you want to get the technical finish and the standard finish done as soon as possible, so that you get more GCDs in, basically, because when you're dancing you cannot use any of your GCDs. In terms of what your partner can do, because that's quite important to dancing, you can give them Saber Dance, which is a 15-second buff that gives them 30% crit and direct hit rate for that 15 seconds. And then you can also do Curing Waltz, which is a 60-second recast timer, which is basically a heal around you and your partner. So it's 2 separate 200 potency AoE heals in a 3 yalm radius. So stacked on top of each other, it's almost as good as a Cure 3 from White Mage on a 60-second recast timer. Also, Saber Dance was on a 2-minute cooldown. And Technical Step, unlike Standard Step, since it only lasts 15 seconds, but it can only be recasted once every 2 minutes, whereas Standard Step you can keep up indefinitely once the fight starts. In terms of their utility abilities, they have Shield Samba, which is the same thing as Troubadour and Tactician, so it's 15 seconds, 10% damage reduction for the whole party in a 15 yalm radius. And then they have Flourish, which is a 60-second recast of GCD, which basically gives you one of each of your procs for your combos, which we'll get to in a second. And then Improvisation is just Meditate, but except for your Esprit gauge. So let's get to the GCDs now. So it looks a bit complicated on paper at first, but when you actually look at it, you can kind of think of it as machinist procs in a way that just happen to last a lot longer. So for your single target, you have Cascade, Reverse Cascade, Fountain, and Fountain Fall. Now Cascade combos into Fountain, and that is how the combo works. 1-2, 1-2, Cascade into Fountain. However, Cascade has a chance to give you a proc for Reverse Cascade, and then Fountain has a chance to give you a proc for Fountain Fall. So what happens is, in case 1, if I use Cascade, which is my first part of my combo, and I get a proc, I have Reverse Cascade light up, and Fountain lights up as well. If I then use Fountain, and I don't get a proc, then I can still use Reverse Cascade because it lasts 15 seconds for the proc. However, what you want to do is obviously use the Reverse Cascade and the Fountain Fall before they run out, if you get a proc off of Cascade and Fountain respectively, because those then grant you a Feather on a 50% chance as well. And then you can use those abilities into off GCDs. So you have 2 off GCDs, Fan Dance 1 and Fan Dance 2. One is single target, one of them is AoE, and then those have a 50% chance to proc into Fan Dance 3, which is a 25 yalm ranged ability that does slightly better AoE. So if you're single targeting, you want to end up using Fan Dance 1s. If you're AoEing, you want to do Fan Dance 2s. However, for Fan Dance 2 and the AoE combos that I'm about to mention are all 5 yalm radius, so you have to be basically within melee range in order to do so. So you have that's kind of what you have to do. Think of like kind of how Bard kind of works with Quick Knock. You have to be within somewhat close proximity in order to be able to use these AoE abilities. So what are these AoE abilities? Well, they function the exact same as Cascade, Fountain, Reverse Cascade, and Fountain Fall. Windmill combos into Blade Shower, and Windmill has a chance to proc Rising Windmill, and Blade Shower has a chance to proc Blood Shower. Both of Blood Shower and Rising Windmill, if you get the procs off of them, have a chance to give you a Fan Dance, as they have the ability to give you a Feather. As a note, Fan Dance 1 and Fan Dance 2, they are off GCDs as well as Fan Dance 3. However, Fan Dance 1 and 2 require a Feather, whereas Fan Dance 3 does not. So in an ideal circumstance, let's say we're doing single target, we use Cascade, we get a proc off of Cascade to get Reverse Cascade. We then use Reverse Cascade to then get a Feather, and then we can then use Fountain to get Fountain Fall. and hopefully if after the Fountain Fall proc, if we got lucky, we get another feather, and then we can use both of those feathers to use Fan Dance 1 twice, and potentially get Fan Dance 3 twice, which will obviously be the best case scenario. And then same goes for the AoE. Another thing to note is that your dance steps, so your red dance, green dance, blue dance, and yellow dance, they replace the buttons Cascade, Fountain, Reverse Cascade, and Fountain Fall based on the color of their pictures when you are dancing, because you are not allowed to use anything but steps, your finish, or your dash while you are dancing. So that's just something to keep in mind. So what can we see from Dancer? Well, it's going to be super overpowered, in my opinion. It looks like it does a lot of damage. It looks like it's a lot of fun to play. It looks like you're going to want to buff up the Mr. President or the glass cannon. And it just seems like it does a lot of stuff for one job, basically. It has defensive AoE with Shield Samba and Curing Wolves for healing. It has damage in a proc system that seems fairly consistent. It has, you know, the dance partner, which is able to buff up one person, and then it's able to basically give AoE balance on technical finish, and then give balance to you and yourself on standard finish. You and your partner, rather, on standard finish. So overall, it seems pretty strong. Even if it is very undertuned in the beginning, you're still going to be having these crazy buffs being given to one other person, so it'll end up balancing itself out, even if Dancer is, you know, average when it comes out on release. It will probably inevitably get buffed anyway, and then it'll still be even overpowered when it's average, because even if it's average and slightly below Bard or Machinist, the utility that it gives will be more so than what they offer, and then you'll be buffing up somebody else as well, which is absolutely insane. That's going to do it for this video. Next one is Machinist. I think that's the end of the range, and then we'll have the 4 melees to go through at the end. So if you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, make sure to comment, and I'm always interested to see if I made any mistakes or anything. I always like to see everyone's input on what they think what a job is going to be, and it's always nice to have a discussion in the comments section below. So that's going to do it for this video, and until next time, take care.